I'm David Levi Strauss, the chair of the MFA program in art writing here at the School of Arts. We are here tonight to celebrate the publication of this book, School of Nite, with text by Peter Lamborn Wilson and images by Nancy Goldring, published by Spuyten Duyvil, edited by Raymond Foy and Nathan Smith. Peter Lamborn Wilson couldn't be here tonight because of health reasons, so Mick Taussig is going to read his poems with the images, and Nancy will talk about everything. This is kind of a family gathering for us, since Peter, Mick, Nancy, and I are all part of what Mick once called the Shangam School of Art and Philosophy, Anarchy, and Mysticism, that usually meets in the Hudson Valley if we don't meet it in Nancy's kitchen. Mick Taussig is the author of many, many books, including most recently The Corn Wolf, Beauty and the Beast, What Colors is Sacred, Walter Benjamin's Grave, and My Cocaine Museum. He teaches anthropology at Columbia University. Mick, Peter, and I, and Dilard Dirac just put together this book, To Dare Imagining, Road of a Revolution, about what's going on in northern Syria. Ask us about it. We want to talk about it. Peter Lamborn Wilson is also the author of many, many books, including TAZ, Immediatism, Sacred Drift, Essays on the Margins of Islam, Pirate Utopias, Escape from the 19th Century, Green Hermeticism, as well as recent books of poetry, including Ecologues, Gothic Institutions, and River People. And I want people to know about this book that just appeared, Heresies, Anarchist Memoirs, Anarchist Art, from Autonomous Media. And the second half of it consists of essays on symbolism, alchemy, and anarchism in the arts, with commentaries on Mallarmé, Duchamp, Redon, Courbet, Gauguin, Joseph Beuys, and many other artists and writers. I have a blurb on the back of the book that says that this book is even better than TAZ, and I actually believe that's true. Nancy Goldring, whose images you'll see here, has been exhibiting her drawings with photo projections for 40 years. Her previous publications include Distillations, Palma Palimpsest, with essays by me and Paolo Barbaro, and Vanishing Points in Genoa, with an essay by Mick Taussig. Now I give you Mick Taussig and Nancy Goldring.
William Burroughs. I am so pleased there's a huge turnout. Levi was very worried, and Nancy and I had to swear, and Nancy did a lot of footwork saying, people will come, don't worry, don't worry. So thank you, wherever you are, for letting us use this incredible space. You'll notice this is like no other university space that I've known, actually, in my 50 years teaching or something. It's just so beautiful and put together. The eye gravitates to the book straight away and says yummy, pseudo-Dionysus, and all sorts of mystical, spiritual art, philosophical stuff. Now, I'm in this strange position. Can you hear me okay at the back? No. Oh, I'll start again. This mic is just for you. Okay, I'll speak louder. Will you be able to hear me at that volume? Okay, and you put your hand up, or just go like this if my voice automatically drops. I'm in this strange situation of channeling my friend Peter, And I feel both honored and awkward about doing this. So you'll have to forgive me if I stumble a bit. Some of the poems some of the words are difficult. I made myself a little list of words. I didn't know what they meant here. And I had to Google them, so that you could call them Google poems. Some are very funny and goofy. Peter insists in recent conversation that every word is like a sign, carefully chosen, not a line, but the word has to be focused on. So maybe I'll try and read at the pace that I think is merited. And I may make a few little explications as I go along, which I don't think he does very much when we heard him. When we heard these poems being read out about 4 or 5 months ago, I was very saddened by the fact that although the book is designed with a poem on one page and an image on the other, which we'll talk about at the end of this, my brief reading, there were no images being shown. And so we thought, well, that's a pity. Let's do it with the images, and let's do it in the city. So that's what tonight is about. It's a sort of a make-up, a second go-round, trying to do justice to the text image, poem image of the original. And then Nancy will talk about how the process of picking the images, the conversation between her and Peter, what image would work and why, and so on. That's, I think, the most great thing. Okay, she and I picked a few poems. It's our choice, I'm not reading them all. And the first one we chose is called Ghazal in N, Ghazal, which is a Persian Arabic word referring to a strict form of a line and a refrain dealing with love and loss. That's my Googling. Okay? Peter spent a lot of time living in Iran when the Shah was in charge. And his knowledge of Afghanistan, India, Iran, and things of great antiquity in the Middle East is awesome. So it's not an accident that he's given this Persian Arabic name to the first poem. Ghazal in N. When I go like that, it's a quotation mark. Knots tied and breathed on somewhere, when in the desert under the proper moon, always leave some fruit behind, like spore, pomegranate, blood orange, mango sting. I raised the wind, but it blew back in my face, burnt my harvest, 10-year wages of sin. Summer afternoon, meander, cellar door, I never find you. A kind of anti-Zen. If I could leave myself to you in my will, I'd gladly consider death and resurrection. It's followed by...
No picture for this one.
Oh, this is followed by pseudo-ghazal. I regret nothing is the accompanies this. I regret nothing by Edith Piaf. Decent reticence allows us not to name you in this safe, sophistic allegory. Poem as a dead letter office, lost found bureau of goodbyes. Telephone line to heaven on high, long since disconnected for unpaid bills. True lovers desire separation. Mystical wine fermented from sour grapes, a stoic bolus that chokes us with nostalgia, words as leeches for throbbing brows. No title. Past erupts into present like hot lava, blurting from underground volcano vents, Yellowstone geyser from pharaonic caverns, where it wintered over, hibernated bearishly, in a dim dream of itself, bloodless and wan. 10,000 top opera hats spurt into the sky, silky ravens with diamonds in their beaks. Blam, the whole library of Alexandria rained papyrus like confetti at an astronaut's parade. A crack opens in the sidewalk and pedestrians hurtle down into 1934, 1911, 1881, crawl out, bruised, dazed, weeping with emotion. Next day, all the cracks are sealed. Mass amnesia. The anomaly erased. Reports suppressed. And only a few remember, but say nothing. But even so, one has to admit that lingering post-eruption dust makes for spectacular sunsets over New Jersey, land of the dead. No title. In the morning, there was morning, with a U. That's me. In evening lands, there's even more. And flying between them, the silver dove disturbs the inner ear and nauseates the inner eye. All that space erased like matter transmission, tedious and paranoid. Will your molecules be reassembled at the terminal? And what about your subconsciousness? A gyroscope falters in your dizzied heart. In the window a map unscrolls its abstractions. Put me down, you shout, as if to some giant. At this speed even blue borders blur. A voice from the aditum in tone, that's the inner sanctum of a sacred building. A voice from the aditum intones, there must be a place where spinning heads can root and increase in grace. I take that to be a poem about moving from morning to night. In the morning there was morning, in evening glands there's even more, and flying between them the silver dove disturbs the inner ear, and so it goes on. Am I blue, right?
Yes.
No title. Am I blue? You'd be too, in this glorious liberal age that's overcome all taboos. Poor in shekels, rich in scruples, or vice versa. Woe unto Babylon. Am I to betray my class interests? We alone are intelligent, which must explain why nothing we do changes anything, as if we were ghosts. Lux of actual, L-U-X-E, lux of actual darkness, silence from which alone can any bird speak. What a rebuke. Veil of Isis is the beginning of this poem. It has no title. The Veil of Isis. In the saturated sky, some crows are quarrelling. The field is surrounded on all sides by scraggly woods. If you open the curtain, all you discover would be more umber, dull, green, grey, and maybe the same crows you'd already seen. I'm not allowed to comment, really, but that's, to me, that's a Nietzschean comment on the foolish young philosophers who wish to raise the veil and find the secret. Let's return to Hollow Earth, page 36. No title. Let's return to Hollow Earth via the giant Descenseur at Mount Erebus. It's a very big mountain in Antarctica, according to Google. Let's return to Hollow Earth via the giant Descenseur at Mount Erebus, all brass and teak, pneumatique, like a Belle Epoque ballroom, sinking beneath Antarctic slag. Slowly, slowly, not to get the bends, suddenly the Art Nouveau windows disclose the panorama of rapturous deep, a cavern so high and vast it vanishes in the distance. Blue waterfalls fall for miles and break up on crags in spumes of mist. Clouds lit by vast artificial globes set into cave walls by unmentionable science. This poem is for a friend of ours, Carolee Schneemann. Schneemann, German name. Snowman. Cling to winter, don't let winter go. From gillied woods where time is running slow, discoloured porcelain shards of rotten ice, the archaeological remnants of the snow. I dream I'm one of a gang of selfish giants, hoarding up all narratives like nuts and port. What prince of spring could resent this frozen garden, boarded up like some bankrupt Nordic resort? Perhaps we should spend our summers in Patagonia, Antarctic whalers lost in the seventh clime, in insulated igloos, musty with sleep, away from the migraine pulse of vacated time. Exile till autumn, wanderers and rovers, and not come back till Club Med freezes over. No title. The light had the slightly pickled smell of an old etching. Sere and yellow. You succumb to revolutionary pessimism here in the evening lands, seen through dull shellac spectacles, ground lenses, dead cicada wings. Too late, the sun like a specimen in a jar of formaldehyde ebbed away, leaving behind the sand of dusk, pulpy wrack on the strand of night, sulphuric, non-Buddhistic, and vernissaged as 100-year-old eggs. Now everyone's alone, unilluminated fairy gold turns to dead leaves in your pocket. No title. The alphabet are fish. The alphabet are fish. And assuage no one's dirty regrets over sins of omission. A narrow voice that gibbers and squeaks in souterrains, tunnels and vaults. Uncanny maybe, but hardly apocalyptic. Fish in veritable hecatombs, filleted and laid down in deepest cellars of the ziggurat. First of many and oldest of the eld, the fish of civilization itself. Bury enough stinking fish and finally after millennia you'll get the alphabet. Dry fruit of a dead sea, corpses of thought. This poem has a title, it's called Chicken Lib. Who'd have thought theophany, the manifestation of a god, who'd have thought theophany caught in throes of auto-commodity, fetish, mesmerism, that it'd strike a chicken as ridiculous as an army that burns its bridges before it crosses them, a true avant-garde devoted to meta-conflagration rather than mere smug, trans-fat self-congratulation. Locked down in its den of recreation, the way you'd mourn a lost chicken, with bouts of late-night pay-per-view, a panorapticonic, rapturous gaze, as of wolf a chicken, if the dazed wolf were vegan, queer as folks, author of many well-loved chicken jokes. This is called Sparks, and it's for Levi. You can maybe tell us more about this poem later. Haven't seen Sparks. Haven't seen one since 1952. Coloured plastic, translucent, whiz disc, spun by some pump, with shower of flinty scintillations. Between dog and wolf, at the blue hour, neither bomb nor word. This is a poem with a title. It's the last one I'm reading. It's called Amber, and it has 5 parts to it. The first part is called Bernstein. I'm channeling. Half jigger Vavilov's tincture of hemp, 1 jigger absinthe, sugar, ice water, shake, static electricity, buzzing, hair stands on end. Suddenly Nazis invade the room. Count zu Solms-Laubeck, the SS art historian, packs the walls in crates, ships them to Prussia, stashed in, quote, lost subterranean ice room or mine shaft in the Ohrdruf, and never recovered, died with lips sealed. So there we were, floating, disembodied over Baltic beach, clothed with the sun, that sort of thing. Head swelled up, disappeared, and left us translucent, resinous. Tears of the Heliades in a time-warped syrup of vanished room. The second part, bug porn. Colour of a cup of tea, once served to Kublai Khan, slow-packed with time. A pair of beetles caught in flagrante delicto, down to the DNA, eternal love in the palm of your hand, the hand of Kublai Khan, still holding the tea with his long, sharp fingernails, sheathed in gold. 3, tulipomania. Calligrams licked on marbled paper, ink compounded of amber and musk, and meerschaum, petrified urine and sperm of mermen, culture as shared hallucination, resins, waxes, aromatic gums and exudates, coagulation of sadness detached from any brain, lacquers, electuaries, honeys, lucums and tars, tears shed in the age of dinosaurs. Now I found the mic. 4, vagabondage. Lucky so much of the past survives. Slow glass, conservatism of amber, delays, retards. Oh, von der Vogel, oh, Edelweiss, pirates, oh, nude worshippers of the German left. Think what science could have achieved by now if not for the emergence of the state. Spirits are attracted to such odours, flies or lizards stuck in our thoughts. And the last section of this last poem, tiger melts into piles of pancakes, butter and syrup, rich puddle, glinting in the sun, the mind, if nothing else, free to think about another day. Thank you.
Mick, thank you so much for that reading. It was really wonderful, and even Peter would be pleased.
I left out a couple of words, I thought.
Did you?
Well,
He'll never know.
he will now.
Oh, yeah, he will.
Oh, yeah.
It was a wonderful morph of the two of you. It was really wonderful. I'd like to first thank Levi for hosting this event. So generous. he's director, for those of you who may not know him, he's director of the art writing program at the MFA art writing program at SCA. Is Raymond here? I'm not sure. I wanted to thank him also. He worked on the editing and was so helpful, Raymond Foy. And Jarrett Ernest, my friend, who was so supportive from the beginning, and Clementina, my assistant, who's always helpful. So I thought I would just explain a little bit about how this process took place. When Peter approached me and asked if I wanted to collaborate on a book with him, I immediately agreed, though I only knew his work from his prose, but as a fan of his prose and of Peter, I thought, well, this could be a great adventure. So then 200 poems arrived to me, and with a note that said, if you don't like these, I'll send you 200 more. So I spent about 3 months working through the poems, reading them. I wish Mick had read them to me, that would have been great. And culled some 25 poems that I thought I could work with. Though at the time, I really had no idea what that work would be like. I knew I didn't want to illustrate. I hate illustration. It always feels as if it trivializes in an irritating way and it tamps down the poem instead of letting it resound. So what I thought I would do would be to find images capable of having a conversation with the poems, so that that conversation, in a way, would set in high relief the things that I found I valued in the poems, and maybe even cherished in the poems. So I went through my archive looking for images that were triggered, and that were triggered by the poems, and that would reveal, in fact, what I valued and appreciated in the poems, because I found them to be rich and richly complex and precise and succinct and funny, goofy, as we said. And then I also found them quite tender and moving. And I loved the way they went from a kind of very personal, intimate conversation to the larger world. So it meant trying to find for these 20 or 25 poems images that would balance with them. I really didn't want either the text or the pictures to weigh too heavily. And that's a very tricky thing to do. So I put some in and I took some out. I added a couple tonight that weren't in the book just because they were ones I discarded. But I thought in this context, maybe you could take a look at them. And then I arrived at what I thought was that balance. Though every time I think about them, perhaps another image might occur, so there could be more books. And I'm sure he'll send me more poems if I want. But some of you, perhaps not familiar with my work, might have some questions about the nature of these images. 2 of them are, might I say, just photographs. They're straight photographs, just pictures with a camera click. And the other ones are a much more elaborate process that I've been using for a very long time. I call it photo-projection because they're photographs of projected images. But perhaps what's more important is what they're projected onto, which are relief models or drawings crafted by hand. They're primarily drawings or collages, and I begin that way. And then what you see are photographs of slides from multiple projectors being projected onto the drawing or the collage. And they occur in sequence which you couldn't tell from this book, but you could tell from the piece dedicated to Carol Lee Schneemann with 2 N's, Pace, Carol Lee. Usually there may be 10, 12 in a sequence. And for this book, it was an experiment to see if I could extract just one that would tell and imply the rest of the sequence. And the idea is to create a kind of space that extends beyond a kind of focal, perspectival rendition of the world out there, but that can encompass, as you think about a place, as you imagine it, as what you read about it, all the revisions you have after you read about a place and go visit it. Many of the poems are accompanied by dream images, as if they were dream stills, as if I could freeze a moment from a dream, which is, of course, memory and imagination, etc. So it, in a way, doesn't represent a place, but it evokes it. And that's the notion. I'm so glad to see so many friends tonight, former students, current students. And if you have questions, I'm happy to answer. Mick will answer too. Well, I did work with the poet Robert Lax on a big installation project called Legend. And I had produced maybe about 35 different images that made for a contemporary legend. It was in our world. And he was living on the island of Patmos, so I went with these images, and we met every day, and together he would sort of recite the lines, and we would see if it worked with the poem. And so there would be nodding and smiling, but again, the images preceded. So I have never sort of contrived an image to go with a poem, except in the case of the poems of Wallace Stevens. I have done that, but I can't call that a collaboration. No? We're all set? Okay. Well, thank you for coming.